I'm trying something new. I am going to start taking on one-on-one calls for free for members of my group program, the Change Project, and I'm going to try to solve their obstacles in a way that fits within their lifestyle. And then I'm going to be taking those calls and sharing it with you, at least the most impactful bits. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I think it's really beneficial to hear other people's stories, kind of take the parts that sound similar to your own, and see how we troubleshoot it. Now, obviously, it's not going to be a perfect fit to your exact situation, but I think it'll be a helpful practice for both me and for you. So first up, we have Riley. She's juggling 3 jobs, planning a wedding, and heading into the most exhausting time of the year. She works in insurance, and it's open enrollment. I'll be honest, I don't know really anything about insurance besides health insurance in America sucks, and I pay way too much for it, but that's besides the point. Even with all those things on Riley's plate, she's trying to stay healthy.
I truly just want to live a healthier life.
And in this conversation, we're going to talk about Riley's obstacles and what we did to solve them and make sure that she moves forward even in this crazy time.
But I don't want to lose the progress that I already have made this year.
One of the things I do on basically every call I have is I ask a little bit about them, but then I want to know what their goal is. It really helps shape the context of the conversation ahead. And Riley's goal will make your heart melt, or at least it did for me.
My dream job in life is to be a mom and live that life and be there as long as possible for said future kids.
Her goal isn't just aesthetics. She just wants to feel strong, energized, and be able to run around with her future kids without getting burnt out in the process. And I think that last part is really important to clue in on because in my experience, a lot of people go super aggressive, just sprint pace on this new exercise regime or this new diet that they're trying, and it only leads to burnout. And the reason that this is on her mind is because her workload gets so intense in the fall. She knows from experience how easy it is to fall back into survival mode.
It's not for me, to do that the rest of my life, to give up the fall. But right now I am here. But I look at the last 2 falls and it's like I woke up at the last minute, got myself ready, went to work, got home, and I went to bed.
So instead of aiming for perfection, we built a minimum viable routine. If you guys have been in my ecosystem or whatever for a decent period of time, you probably know the tagline that I'm really big on: lowering the barrier. And what that looks like for Riley and what it might look like for you too is setting up just a few habits that you can stick to even on your craziest day or week. So here's what that was for Riley. First, she's going to wake up at 6 a.m. so that she has some time for herself. This will help with the mental and emotional side of the busy season.
Having that time in the morning, even if it's just me reading, just having extra time to make myself breakfast and just have a moment for myself, I think is a huge shift in my day.
So if you're unfamiliar with the concept of revenge bedtime, it's a concept that's becoming more popular. It's always been around, but I think more and more people are starting to realize that they have it too. And so what it is, it's when you push back your bedtime after a long day, usually of work, because you want to take back some of that personal time. Even if you know that you're going to be tired, the next day, it's something that even one of my friends was telling me about it. He hadn't heard of it. And when I mentioned it to him, I said, yeah, it sounds like you're doing revenge bedtime. He's like, what is that? And I gave him the same, basically the same description. He said, yeah, that's definitely what I'm doing. And I am exhausted the next day. But, he's working from the time he wakes up all the way into the evening, right? And then he has dinner and he doesn't have any kids. So if you have kids, that's another thing on your plate, but we need to be able to make time for ourselves. And so in Riley's case, waking up earlier for her is a way for her to reclaim her time. She still needs more total sleep, and she acknowledged that. Her busy season often makes her stay up later to get that me time, but there's kind of a trade-off, right? And so it's when can you carve out time, because your mental health matters. I mean, whether you probably know that, but are you actually doing things to prioritize that? That's a whole different thing. And I think it's really important that if you can't prioritize quantity of sleep, then trying to prioritize quality of sleep is, that's a really good route too. And so some things just off the top of my head to try to improve quality of sleep is improving your sleep environment. Don't be scrolling right before bed. Put your phone, on the opposite side of the room, or maybe even charge it in a different room. Try to make it as dark as possible, basically as much as like a cave as possible, as dark as possible, cool, so you're not overheating, and then ideally absent from noise. But if you're somewhere let's say you're in New York City, noise is probably going to happen, right? So instead, what you can do is filter out that noise with a sound machine. So, and if you don't have, maybe you get a fan to cool it down if you don't have air conditioning. There's a lot of ways that you can, lighter sheets, for example. There's a lot of ways that you can improve the quality of sleep, but really the first one I'd focus on is trying to make it just like a cave, as dark as possible and at a decent temperature, usually typically pretty cold is what most people prefer and sleep best in. Second, she's going to move her body intentionally 2 to 3 times per week. And maybe that's not some hour-long workout. Maybe it's just a 20-minute weights workout or even just a longer walk.
I think it'd probably be more realistic that I could work out on Wednesdays. Fridays, I have the yay, it's weekend energy. So
Third, her cousin works at the same place as her, so they're going to do a walking routine together. Every day, they're just going to get up from their desks and go for a short walk. And it's a really good idea to have this kind of accountability built in with another person. So if you're looking for, a way to stick with it a little bit better, think about getting a workout partner. So we talked about how Riley could pace between sets to up her step count. After, you do a set, you push yourself, great. Do you sit there and rest for, 90 seconds or so?
yeah.
Pace around. Just pace,
Okay.
just do a quick lap around the gym. I mean, you can get an easy maybe 2,000 steps in
Yeah.
just from doing that, pacing in between sets. And this is a really good example of non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. NEAT. A lot of you are probably familiar with that. If you're not, maybe go check out the Metabolism podcast that I did. I don't remember the episode off the top of my head, but yeah, that's a pretty good one. NEAT is the most variable in terms of energy expenditure, and when we are in a calorie deficit or whatever calorie surplus, whatever phase we're in, it responds the most. Metabolic adaptation. Our body responds the most via this. I don't want to call it a pathway, but like this form of movement or this form of energy expenditure, I should say. And so some ways that you could try to increase your NEAT are, taking the stairs instead of the elevator. That's an easy one. You could, in the office or even in your house, you could walk to the furthest bathroom or the furthest water fountain, to fill up your water bottle. You could pace around while on a phone call or while texting or, scrolling social media. You could play with your dogs or kids. I mean, even a few minutes of that really adds up. And, as my dogs, 2 golden retrievers, one of them especially with very high energy levels, she absolutely loves that. And then you could, I don't know, maybe like do your household chores with a little bit more vigor or something like that. Maybe kind of bop around, dance around a little bit while doing the laundry or the dishes, because that movement counts too. It's all viable, and finding sneaky and creative ways to increase that, especially when you're trying to lose weight and get into that calorie deficit, these kinds of things really do add up. And fourth, she's going to try to improve her sleep by eating dinner a little bit earlier and putting her phone on the opposite side of the room. And this is twofold. First, she's not scrolling, right before bed. And then second, her phone is her alarm. And so she'll have to get up and actually go turn it off rather than just continually pressing snooze.
Probably I should just plug it in on the other side of the room.
Here's the thing about consistency. It's not about doing more. It's just about finding what you can do and sticking with it. And I know that might sound really, really simple to a lot of you, and it's supposed to be. It's about doing what you can even when everything else is going to shit. And oftentimes that means making it easier to show up. Instead of focusing on raising your ceiling, focus on raising your floor. What is your baseline? Okay, that's how you make progress. One of Riley's questions was, should she focus on cardio or strength? Because she kind of heard on the internet that, you should worry about losing the weight before trying to build muscle. And I can't disagree with this more. Good news on that. No, you don't have to. We have plenty of research showing that you can gain muscle and lose body fat at the same time. And by building muscle and losing body fat at the same time, you're less likely to regain the weight. On the cardio front, it's really important to know that you don't have to do some kind of cardio you don't enjoy. So if you hate doing those group classes, but you do them anyway because you know they're good for you, or if you hate running, don't do those things. There are so many ways that you can perform cardio. You don't just have to hop on a treadmill or do a Stairmaster or anything like that. There's no one modality that is so significantly better for you that it outweighs the enjoyment factor. Enjoyment needs to be the cornerstone of everything you do when it comes to fitness and nutrition, because if you're not enjoying it, if you are hating it, you're not going to stick with it. I really can't reiterate that enough. It is so important that you somewhat enjoy or at least do not hate the things you are doing. Now, are we always going to feel like, oh wow, it's a bright sunshiny day and there's rainbows and I'm so excited to go work out? No. Sometimes it's just like, all right, I got to get this shit done, right? But if it is feeling that way every single day, you basically have two options. One, you change your modality, or two, you change your mindset. Maybe it's a little bit of both, but I find more often than not, the people who are trying to brute force their way into something, it's not a long term strategy. So try to find ways that you might enjoy it a little bit. Now, for Riley, she said that she loves reading. And so using her Kindle and reading while walking on the treadmill is something she's already doing. This is a great idea. It's called a habit stack. It's pairing something, or even temptation bundling, where it's pairing something where that you like doing with something that you should be doing, right? Maybe you do, I don't know, like dancing at home. Riley and I even talked about that I would put on my VR headset for my PlayStation, and I would do it's a game called Beat Saber. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but Beat Saber, and basically you have like two, your hands have these controllers, right? And you're trying to hit these, they're almost like swords, like lightsabers almost, and you're trying to hit these things that are flying at you, and it's to the beat of a song. And I would put this on a really high difficulty, and you get moving and your heart rate gets real high, and I mean, you start sweating a good bit. So, that's like another creative option that is legitimately viable for people. But then there's also just simple things like cycling, elliptical, incline walking with your dogs, maybe even trying to jog with your dogs. Maybe it's some sports stuff like pickleball, tennis, hiking, swimming, joining a rec league soccer team, pick up basketball at your local community center. There's so many options out there, that I would hate for somebody to feel so boxed in of like, oh, I hate running, but I need to do it. Like, no, absolutely not. Find a few modalities that you enjoy, ideally ones that you can do across multiple seasons, or that you have a few options, for each season. Because, if you're in the north and your favorite thing is tennis and you don't have any indoor tennis courts, okay, are you just going to give up cardio for half of the year? Come on now. You know what I mean? Like, so we got to find options that we have a few options for when it's warm, a few options when it's cold. And, for me, like one that I really like doing, like I'm trying to get better at running. So I'm doing that right now. And honestly, one way that I've been doing, making this more enjoyable is I have a spreadsheet that tracks like my performance. Basically, I enter in like my distance and my heart rate and my time, and then it calculates like my speed, and it averages all these things out and gives me like this performance score thing. And I have a similar thing with cycling. That's a little bit more intense. But when I'm cycling, when I'm running, I just throw on music or a podcast or something. But when I'm cycling, I'll just play chess on my phone. You guys probably know, if you've been listening to this for a while, or if you know me, that I really, really enjoy chess. I picked it up at the beginning of 2024, and that's just been awesome for me. And I mean, you're locked in. You're very focused when you are playing chess. Everything else kind of drowns out. And so I'll just keep on pedaling. My heart rate is, 130, 140, 150 plus. And I'm, just so focused on chess that time just flies by. And so maybe it's playing video games, watching TV or movie while you are cycling or doing an elliptical or literally whatever. Try to find enjoyable ways to do this, and I promise you it'll be so much easier. I'd also want to highlight that cardio is awesome for your cardiovascular health, for your endurance, for your mood, all those things. But I really wouldn't utilize it as calorie expenditure, calorie burn. It's not, because our body's so dang good at adapting, and our wristwatch, those data trackers, and the calorie estimates that are on your whether it's on the elliptical or whatever, those are so far off. Please don't eat back those calories. Any calorie targets you have, that's all baked into it. But exercise in general, yes, it does increase your energy expenditure, but our body also adapts to it. So it's not, if somebody's just trying to lose weight, they're not paying attention to their nutrition at all, and they're exclusively focused on just trying to do more cardio, that's an uphill battle. It is tough to be able to do that. So I would try to refrain that mentality of, oh, I'm doing cardio to increase my energy expenditure, my calorie burn, to lose weight faster. I would try to refrain from that mindset, because, okay, what happens when you go back to maintenance? Try to make cardio the goal of it, from a mental standpoint, the goal of it is to get yourself fitter and healthier. And I think it's a lot more enjoyable that way in the long run. Now, Riley doesn't want to track calories, and that's totally fine. It's not the right tool for every single person, but she is open to tracking protein and fiber. And she's already hitting 80 grams of protein a day, which is awesome. And we talked about a few different ways to bump that up, but one of her phrases that she used was, okay, well, maybe I can make protein the star of the show and have pasta, for example, as a side. And I thought that was a great way to look at it.
Like a lot of our meals are like whole grain pasta or whatever. Like instead of having whole grain pasta with a protein on it, like we could definitely switch it to more like we're having a chicken breast with pasta as a little side, and that would just automatically increase how much protein you're having.
Here's the thing. Riley's not trying to do anything extreme. She's not trying to overhaul her life. She's just picking a few high-impact habits that fit her lifestyle and going to stick with them for a long period of time. So if you're heading into a busy season of life or things are just feeling kind of overwhelming for you right now, ask yourself, what is the minimum that you can do, that you can routinely stick to, and that helps you move forward over time? For Riley, it's 6 a.m. wake-ups, 1 to 2 workouts per week, and getting in some light movement at work. That's it. And guess what? It's enough, because you don't need to overcomplicate this. Now, as a reminder, these coaching calls are something that I'm offering now to members of the Change Project, which is my group coaching program focused on long-term habits, strength, nutrition targets, and how to stay consistent even when life gets messy. If you're already inside, look out for your chance to book one. And if you're not a member, but this kind of support sounds interesting to you, then I would check the link in the description of this for more details. All right, that's it. Have a great day.